Alright, hello again everyone. Today I am back with a tutorial I'm actually kind of excited for, and it's an infinity table. Like, I've seen these made in real life. I want to make one myself. It's not too difficult of an idea. It's two one-way mirrors, put LEDs in the middle of it, put a bit of a nice table around it, and then just turn on the LEDs. And it looks like the table is infinity. Or makes sense with the name infinity table. So I was wondering how to do this in 3ds Max and wondering how to do it with the backface cullings and how that would work and stuff like that. How you could see through one side but have the other side reflect. So really, it's quite a simple process. It's just, it took a while to figure out. And now I wanted to share that with you. And you can get a really cool effect of if the table looks like infinity to not infinity. You'll never see it with this just because, I mean, it's realistic lighting. Even if it's realistic lighting, you're going to have to render it out. But if I do go under my rendered frame window that I had opened up before, you can see the table looks like infinity. This would be a really cool effect if we had a camera going around like this, which I do intend to do, but I don't want to render it out right yet. I'll render it out after the tutorial when I work on it myself. Anyways, so let's reset this and let's start making making an infinity table. Yes, I want to reset. So there we go. First, this time, for the first time ever, we're going to make the materials first. But first for that, we need to do some setup. So first for rendering, under our renderer, no, not under render, render setup, we will go to, if I move this, sorry, this was on my 30-200s. Yeah, there we go. Under assign renderer, make sure that mental ray renderer is selected. I already have it selected, so it's not going to pop up there. I have a lot more selected than I have a lot more rendered than I thought. So we'll just make sure that mental ray is selected. As well, we are going to go under customize unit setup and set up for units to decimal standard inches right there. Press OK on that, and now you'll see everything's in inches. Whee! Next, what we are going to do is make a material. So press M to open up the material editor, move it into our view, and we're going to work with the slate material editor. I find it much easier to use. If this slate material editor doesn't say up there, just go under your modes and go slate material editor. Some people will be under compact, which is this one, which I have not used in years, ever since this, about a year after the slate material editor came out. It took me a while to get used to it, but it's so much better. Anyways, first let's make some materials. So for our mirror material, we are going to use an arch design material and the preset chrome right there, and now we're going to play around with it a bit. So I'm just going to name this mirror because it's under a tutorial. I should actually be doing it properly. So first what we're going to do is change the diffuse amount to 0.15. What this allows is this white color won't be as prominent, therefore in the dark environment it'll be more black, so therefore it looks more like a mirror because it's reflecting something more. Our reflectivity and glossiness will both pop it up at 1. That's good enough like that. Keep it that way. And for refraction, both transparency and glossiness keep the same values. Next, what we're going to change is right here under our BRDF. Now, I can never remember what that stands for, but really what it means is the angle of the reflection versus the reflectivity. If you look at a mirror head-on, you'll always see it fully reflective. If you look at a mirror sideways, you'll see it fully reflective. However, if you switch that up and you go to more of a glass thing, if you look at the glass head-on, it won't be very reflective. You'll see directly through it, hence windows. If you look at glass at an angle, at a very high angle, then it will be a bit different. And this is just the reflectivity versus angle of chrome. Now, what we want is a perfect mirror. Like, we want, if you look at an angle, it's perfect. If you look at its side, it's perfect. If you look at it head dead on, it's perfect. So to make sure of that, we just pop our 0 degree of reflection. So this is at 0 degrees. So if we're looking at it right sideways, we want to pop that up to 1. And our 9 degree reflection, so if we're looking at it head on, we want to pop it up to 1 as well. Other way around. 0 is looking at direct dead on, I think, and 90 is looking at it sideways. But that's the thing. Next, what we want to do, we'll just make sure those things, is under advanced rendering. There are these two values here, 3 and 3, under reflections and refractions. Now this is an infinity table, not a 3 reflection table. This says this will reflect 3 times before it stops reflecting. Usually you don't need to worry about more than that because you have a mirror that shows off something else. There's no other mirror on the other side that's showing off. It doesn't bounce. Even if it bounces to another mirror, that usually bounces to somewhere else and the reflections will stop. However, we want this to go for what seems to be infinity. Because the program can't handle infinity, that would throw a memory leak error and crash the program. That's why they have these options. So we'll make our max trace depth 50. So this mirror will reflect 50 times before it stops reflecting. and we'll make a refraction 50 times as well. Usually it doesn't matter for refractions as much because it's a perfect mirror that we're making, but we use it anyways. So that will be everything. However, this back face culling, make sure this is turned on. This makes sense because it means when we look through it one way, we won't see it. When we look through it the other way, we will see it. So it only has one side of a face right now instead of two sides of a face. So make sure that's like that. And that will be everything for the mirror material. Next, what we're going to do is make a glass material. So under mental rate, architecture and design, and glass. And I guess that doesn't count. Okay, I've never actually had that happen to me. Now let's just go under glass, under thin geometry. Now what this thin geometry means is it doesn't necessarily need two sides to make it look properly. Since we'll only be applying it to one polygon, we don't need more than this. This is perfect for what we need. Next, what we're going to do for this is we're just going to make sure that we're going to rename it, and that will stay the same. So that'll be our glass material. Next, what we're going to make is our light materials. So these will be the LED light materials. So LED lights. And for these, what we're going to do is start off with a basic matte finish. And from there on, we are going to turn on self-illumination. So we go down to self-illumination / glow, turn it on. As you can see, it starts glowing in the preview window here. And for our filter, we are going to use a blue filter, and which will be that's not where I'm going to put it in. 0.577 on the hue and 0.408 on the saturation. So just a very light blue filter with the value of 1. And that is everything we need for that. However, we do need to make sure that it illuminates the scene when using Final Gather. So what this does is, right there, defines if self-illumination effect is actually illuminating the scene with Final Gather. Final Gather sends out light particles, I guess, and then from there on it determines how light an area is. Since we want the inside of the box to be light because there's light all around it, we will use these for final gathering. So that will be that. Next, what we're going to do is make a black matte material for the table. So we're going to not do that, delete that one out. Make a new material, another mental rate architecture and design. And this will be table. And for this, all we are going to do is go to matte finish and darken it up. So I used a value of 0.05, and that looked to be good enough for me. So now we have our 4 materials that we will be using. Next, what we're going to start on right now, is the actual modeling of this, which is quite simple. I mean, you can make it more complex if you want it, but it's not about that for me right now. So what we're going to do is make a rectangle, drag it out, and this rectangle will be the glass panes. There will be 2 of them, but we're only going to make one and we'll duplicate it later. So the length will be 24 by 60 by 0.5. So we have half-inch glass. That's pretty freaking good glass, but it works nicely. Next, what we're going to do is make another box, and this will be the tabletop. Well, table, I guess. I'm just going to name it table because that's what I said I was going to name it. So it'll be 26 inches, so it'll be 1 inch wider on each side, 62 inches on there, and 4 inches deep. This 4 inches depth allows us to have the top, the bottom, and all the LED placements that we're going to put into it. So, excuse me, next what we're going to do, is convert this to an edible poly. I should have gotten more juice when I was gone, but my mouth is getting dry. Convert this to edible poly when we're done. Select the edges and ring around like that. Press connect with this little arrow so you get this little pop-up box. And 2 segments, 97 pinch, so this pinches it outwards, as you can see out to there. And that's good. Next what we're going to do is the exact same thing, but around this way. Connect, and it will be 90 instead of 97. Press OK, and there we go. Now what we're going to do is press Alt-W. This brings us this. It maximizes the selected viewport. So if you have this yellow boundary around it, you can see selected viewport will maximize and demaximize with it. Alt-W is the key command for that. Excuse me. And we are going to make sure that this is right on the center of this one as well. So we're going to just center this out at 0, 0, 0. If these snap points aren't coming up for you, just turn on your snaps toggle. If the grid points still aren't snapping for you, right click on snaps toggle and turn on grid points, vertex, and midpoints. These are the 3 that I usually use most often. Sometimes I don't even use grid points. And now we're just going to make sure that this is the exact place as well. You could also just type in your value 0, 0, 0 there. But, I mean, why not use the snapping tools? It's faster. You don't have to get your hand off the mouse, and you don't have to move the mouse much further away. So there we go. We got the tabletop and the other top. Press F4 to see our edged faces, so you see the edges now. And what we're going to do is extrude this down. So select that polygon, extrude by -0.5, and that's good. Now we'll inset it by 0.5 as well. So there we go. Inset and extrude it. Next what we're going to do is pull this one up to the top just so it can sit on top of it. And snap it down like that. And there we go. So we have a bit of space in between it, but it looks fine enough. So now that we make sure that that's in the right place, we're going to just hide that selection. And we're going to work with this a bit more. Now we're going to delete this top polygon. Delete the top polygon. I hid it as an element somehow. I don't know how I did that. And we're going to work with this bottom polygon. Again, inset it by 0.5. Inset by 0.5. And then we'll delete this. And I keep hitting the last one, delete. And take these two borders. So using the border tool, click these two borders. Make sure that they're clicked. As you can see, they're on the exact same plane like that. And press bridge. Now there shouldn't be any problems with the bridging. However, if there is some problems with the bridging, click this button right here and then do a difference in the twists. Where is it? Twist 1 and 2. Just play around with those to make until it looks proper. You could also click the border, shift click it down, and then merge all the vertices. But this is the fastest way to do it for me. So next what we're going to do is select the interior edges and ring and connect them. So we're going to select them, ring, connect, and then we're going to go to one segment, 0, and slide 65 units down. It's just an arbitrary number. I think it's a percentage, but slide 65 down. From now on, we're going to select these bottom polygons, extrude those in by 0.5, 0.5, and make sure it's a local number. And as you see, they extrude in just like our top ones. So this is where our other piece of glass will sit. So press OK, and that is good for that. So we got our table kind of set up. Next, what we're going to do is, under this area, there we go, we are going to, we're going to make the inset for where the LEDs will go in. So select this edge right here, ring, connect, 1, 0, 0, 0, that's good. Chamfer it, clicking that button. Chamfer it, I would say by 1, because that allows enough room to get it. Now select all these polygons by clicking one, shift clicking all of them, so we have all of them selected like that. And extruding those out at -0.5 by the local normal again. So there we go. We'll press OK for that. And we are now able to have the time to put in our LED lights. So what we're going to do now is under our extended primitives, create primitives, extended primitive. We're going to use a chamfer box. And I'm just going to drag it out on the ground because I'm going to be moving it later. And what we're going to make sure is that the length is 0.3 by 0.3 by 0.1 and the fillet is 0.015. Now what this does is it creates a box with just a little fillet, man, I'm French, fillet on the side of it, so it gives it a bit more roundness, kind of like an LED. I didn't want to have an actual LED light, I just wanted to have an LED box kind of thing. And a lot of LED lights do come in like box thingies and stuff like that to make it look a bit more square, a bit more uniform. And there we go. And we'll just make sure that it's right in the center of that. So I'm going to effect pivot only, center to object, and put it right there. Now if we were creating this for anything, or if we had a problem with poly counts, or we're worried about poly counts, I would make sure that I delete off the back polygons and everything like that. It's not going to be too big of a deal. You won't see it in the renders. It'll be hidden. But for cleanliness, you can do it. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to do it. So next what we're going to do is line this polygon up to about the top, right about there. And we are going to shift drag it over till it looks about right. So I used either used 1 or 0.6 over, and the number of copies in make sure that there's enough to go across the thing. I use 75 and delete off the extras. So there we go. 75 wasn't enough. So what we're going to do is do this again. 6. And we'll make 150. That will be enough. There we go. And we can delete off all these extra ones. Except for that one, because that one's still inside the LED light box, I guess, or table. Select all those ones. And shift drag until you put it right onto the proper inside of it. I don't think that one is. I think it's that one that's proper inside. And there we go. Now you can see they're on that side as well. So we got our LEDs on both sides. Next what we're going to do is put them on our other sides. So rotate them 90. Move them all the way to that side. Make sure it's in the proper position, which it seems to be. And delete off the extras. So select these. Turn off snapping by pressing S. Select these and press delete. Select all these and press delete. Next we can just select all these ones, but these 3, without these 3. And editing this one, we can shift drag it again across here. I'm using the snapping tool to make it easy for me to properly put it on there. That's the midpoint snap that I usually have turned on. It snaps to the midpoint of a edge, and it looks pretty good. So there we go. We have all our lights in place, almost. Next what we're going to do is select all these lights and drag them down twice. Just drag them down like that. 1, 2 copies, and there they are. It's not perfectly centered, but what we can do is select all the lights, deselect the table, and just move them up until it's nicely in center like that. So now we have all our lights. Now that's a lot of lights, but it will look cool in the end. Next what we're going to do is unhide all. Take this glass pane and shift drag it onto the bottom part where it can sit down like that. And now we have the top and bottom glass panes on with, if we hide this selection, you can see all our LEDs in the middle of it. So we're going to save our file. And I'm going to have to, sorry about this one. And that's not the right place to save it. There we go, it's saved. I apologize for that one. And next what we're going to do is just create the legs for the table. So most tables I think are about 18 inches tall. So I'm just going to go under a standard primitive, a box, and you don't even have to turn on snapping. And the table legs will be 2 by 2 by 18 inches. And just slide it into this area right here. There we go. Slide that one down to here. Make sure you select this table leg again and shift drag them all the way across to here. There we go. Now what we're going to do is select all of this, deselect the table legs, and pull the table up to about there. And there we go. We have our table all set up. Now it doesn't look like much, but when we put the materials to it, it will look much nicer. So what we're going to do is these 2 glass panes, we're going to right click, convert to editable poly. And we're going to isolate them by pressing Alt Q so you can see them like this. Now what we want to do is add the chrome material to it, which we have right here, so the mirror material. But we want to see through the top and bottom pane. So what we're going to do is select our area, press the polygon and click glass, and apply the glass just to that one polygon. So as you can see now, there's a glass on the polygon, but the mirror on the other side. Next what we're going to do is do the exact same thing with this one, and add the glass to the bottom of it. And there we go. So now we have the glass on either side, so you can see through it, but it would look like it's infinite. Now, what we could do is turn down the transparency of this chrome material, this mirror material, just a bit, so you don't see it infinitely through it, so there's a bit of like the underside of it. However, I don't want to do that, and I want it to look like it's an entire mirror in the inside of it. So we're going to unhide all again. This outside area, in the legs, we'll click on all these, hit M for material again, and add the table material to it. And that is good. And next what we're going to do is hide this selection again. Actually, we don't even have to do that. Just go X isolation mode and hit the selection. Select all our lights. Select all our lights. Hit M for material again, and put our LED material on them. So, lastly what I'm going to do just to make it look clean is select all of them, click this object color, click black, and really what this does since we have materials on it, or really what it should do since we have materials on it, is it just makes the wireframe black, which makes it a lot easier to work and look at, because it's not all these random colors that, I mean, while cool, I don't want to look at them. So I'll unhide everything, make sure that it's fine like that, and we'll press F9 to render. Now as you can see there are a few problems. It doesn't look like all our LEDs are shining, and it only mirrors 3 times downwards. So those are 2 things that we have to fix. As well, the light doesn't look too good, and there's no real base plate, but that'll be fine. So first what we have to do is make sure that there's no shadows coming from this top thing. So right click on our top class plane, go under Object Properties, and turn off Receive and Cast Shadows. The reason we do this is because light passes through it, but since there's a mirror on the other, light passes through the glass, but since there's a mirror on the plane, it says, oh, this is still, on the other side of the plane, this is still under materials, this is still under, excuse me, under an object that would cast a shadow, and then therefore it makes it black underneath. That's when you put a light in the scene, and you'll see that later. As well, if we go back to our render frame window, you can see it only copies itself 3 times, and there's a few missing ones. Now this was a problem, as I said, when we were using just the, we had to put up the amount of reflections that a material could use. So since it only reflects it 3 times, we also have to go under our render setup, and under our renderer tab, there we go, not under renderer tab, under our indirect illumination tab, sorry, so we'll go into indirect illumination, and under our trait steps, these are also, there's only 2 max global reflections and 5 max global refractions. These we want to pop up high. We want to pop them up to about 50. And 50 max refractions, and also 50 max depth. And now when we hit render, you'll see it will take a bit longer, but you'll see that it still doesn't work because for some reason I was dumb and I clicked the wrong one. So right here under our trace bounce limits, we just want to pop these up to 50, and this should work. Apologies. And we render it out, and let's see if I'm dumb. I'm still a dum-dum. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our render setup, and we're going to make sure that these 2 areas have 50 for each of their max reflections. So under our indirect illumination tab, we're going to go under our advanced options and our trace depth to max 50 with 50 reflections and 50 refractions. And now we're under our renderer, we're going to go to max 50 trace depth and 50 reflections and 50 refraction. Now when we render this out, you can see that there is a lot more of the lights on it. You can see these little problem areas right here and stuff like that. That's just because my aliasing is off, and so is my my actual final gather precision. So that's just because the precision of my image isn't the best right now. However, you can see how that it looks like it's an infinite table if we look straight down. So I just moved my camera to look straight down. As you can see, it looks like the table goes on for infinity. So next what we're going to do is a bit of cleanup and a bit more of the rendering options to make it look pretty. So we'll close this out, and what first we're going to do is put a plane to put our table on, and the plane will be, you can click on that, 250 by 250, and we'll just zero it out by right-clicking these sliders here, and we'll go zoom in like that. There we go, and we'll move the table, or we'll make the size of this a bit bigger, 500 by 500. I guess in my notes I thought it would be 250 would be good enough, but it's not. So next what we're going to do is create a simple light in this, and we are going to go to lights, and we're going to go to standard light, MR area omni, click on that, move it up a bit, and as you can see it looks like a table. So we're just going to put the light over about here, out of our way, a bit up about behind us. And next what we're going to do is go under our F10, so under our renderer again. Under Common tab, we are going to do a HD TV by 1280 by 720. Next we're going to go is go into our render. Our shaft shadow precision will be 2. Samples per pixel will be 1 and 16. So this is just a pretty basic setup. Filter for Mitchell and 4 and 4 height and width for a solid quality render. Now we'll just leave all those the same. Make sure these are all up at the top again. Go under indirect illumination, and we're finally got the precision. I'll throw up a medium. There's not much noise in there, so we'll leave it at standard. And we will now press render. A thing I noticed actually before we press render, hopefully you didn't do that yet, is our ground plane is still purple. So we don't really care if it's purple or gray or anything, but we'll just make it a nice quick little gray just to make it look nicer. So under materials, mental ray, architecture and design, double click on it. And there we go. Just make it a dark gray and make it a matte finish. And there we go. We'll apply that to the gray or to the material down here. And we will now press render and you will see it render out. So as you can see, this did take a while to render out. I had to pause, so it took 5 minutes to render out. Not too bad. But as you can see, it has the infinite table effect. You can see there's an edge of a table here, but it looks like the table is going on for infinity down there. This would look really cool if there was a video of it going around or something like that, and anything like that. However, as you can see, it's not too difficult. You just have to make sure that the plane has a glass material and a mirror material. As well, you need to make sure that under indirect illumination, your max trace depth is all up to 50, and under renderer, your max reflections and refractions are up to 50. So there we go. We have shown you how to make, well, I have shown you how to make a 3D table that's an infinite table that looks really cool with the lights. You can also change around the color of the lights by just pressing M for new material, going under LED light, shift copying that, and under your filter color, changing it to a red or something, and you can make some really cool looks with that. But that is everything I was going to show you. So hope you enjoyed, and hope you to see some awesome 3D LED infinite tables. Cheers.